Please make sure cell phones are silenced. Roll call.
All right, roll call. Bartelt.
Here.
Davis.
Here.
Dearth. Hudak. Martin.
Here.
Metz. Millette.
Here.
Palmieri.
Here.
Wally.
Here.
Schellinger.
Here.
Franz. All right, thank you.
All right, any comments, questions, concerns with the minutes from November?
We have a
Motion to approve?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. Okay. All right.
All right, do we have any old business? Okay, just want to make sure nothing was missing. All right, new business, update on the Parks Department volunteer program.
All right. This evening, we have Kathy Snell here, who's our special events coordinator for the city. One of the things that our department, all the divisions have been working on is to improve our volunteer processes through our department. We utilize volunteers in every division in a variety of ways, from the senior center, parks, special events, landscape operations, and like I said, we can't do a lot of things without the volunteers. Kathy has taken the lead role on a number of volunteer initiatives. She's got some great background in that from some other positions that she's held, and just her organization skills. So she's been very helpful for us the past 2 years or so. She can talk a little bit about tonight the volunteer process that we've really worked on for our special events that Jenny coordinates through the department. But then she's going to touch on what we're also looking to do is expand into our parks and landscape operations as far as some of the field work, some of the things that we're looking at there to, again, generate some additional volunteers to help us do some of those tasks that we need to get done. But if our staff doesn't need to spend the time on it, they can move on and try to get to some of the other items on their task list. So I will turn it over to Kathy, and she can go through her information and answer any questions the board might have.
So as Ray said, my name is Kathy Snell. I work with the City of Oshkosh Special Events. And just over the last couple of years, I started working with the Parks Department, helping them with their volunteer program. When they asked me to help, what we were experiencing at that point were some issues. Auto reminders from signups that volunteers had didn't provide clear instructions. Volunteers didn't always have a point of contact when they got to their events. There wasn't a real collection of data for future connections. And the volunteer tasks that were there, there was no follow-up to engage with those volunteers after they left that activity. So what we started to do was look at pulling in the volunteer program into the strategic plan for the City of Oshkosh Parks Department. As such, we are looking to improve our volunteer systems and processes by developing a volunteer recruitment plan, retention and recognition program, and then improving the management and training of the volunteers that we do have for those events hosted with the Parks Department. So really, kind of just wanted to run quickly through kind of what we've been doing over the last couple of years to make some improvements. So we do pre-event emails now that include staff contacts, where they need to go when they get to an event, who they're checking in with, where they need to park, what kind of attire they need to wear, what are the weather conditions, cancellations. All of that information is now provided to them in an email before they get to the event. We have set up position descriptions and specific assignments for different events. We do business and group individual volunteer database, so now we're keeping track of the volunteers who are attending those events with us. Inviting them to an annual appreciation event, sending holiday cards, emails, just thanking volunteers for their time and service, and giving them an option to sign up for future events. So we want them to continue to come back. I keep doing this. So as you can see, in 2021, we had 68 volunteers do 462 and a half hours for the Parks Department, which was a value of about almost $14,000 for the year. In 2022, we were able to increase the number of volunteers, almost doubling that to 121 volunteers, 700 and almost 80 hours of service. Again, that value increasing along with hours and time. I wanted to include this. This was just a comment from one of our recent volunteers. Volunteering for the Oshkosh Parks Department keeps me active in community activities and attending events that I might not otherwise attend. The part of volunteering that touches me is meeting and working alongside the other volunteers and seeing so many families, in some cases multi-generational, in attendance. So just kind of sharing what our volunteers are experiencing at those events. So what's next? Success is growth, or growth is success. So we'd like to expand that volunteer program, as Ray mentioned, to open those opportunities up for more of the landscaping and park maintenance as well. So we feel like we're doing really well with the events. So now we want to broaden that scope a little bit. And talking with the park staff, we have endless possibilities, from mulching projects to weeding projects to cleanup to boat launch or dock cleaning. There's a number of and variety of things that we can continue to do as we offer those opportunities. So moving forward, what we plan to do is continue developing opportunities for the park and landscaping projects and maintenance. We have already started collaborating with some of our existing partners. They're excited that we are actually putting a plan in place and having that available to them. And then looking at recruiting additional volunteers. So those avenues that we've currently been using for the event volunteers, we can certainly go back to them and ask them if anybody's interested in doing additional volunteer services, or do they know someone who maybe doesn't want to do the event side of things, but maybe it's a individual activity throughout the week of, maybe every other week, coming through and weeding a flower bed, or helping on a mulching project or something like that. So we just ask that people consider volunteering with the Oshkosh Parks Department, and contact us if anybody is interested in volunteering. Any questions?
Kathy, do we have a T-shirt for our volunteers by any chance? I happened to see one of the Menasha Park and Rec T-shirts. It was like very basic, very simple. I don't know if it was from a program like people participated in, or if it was a volunteer type thing. I was just curious if we had anything like that.
Sure. So obviously budgets are always, things we have to consider. This past year we did get a donation to be able to offer T-shirts or to our Brews on the Bay volunteers. So that's something that they were very excited about wearing them with us. We have our staff shirts, and then they were able to have the volunteer shirts. So they were very excited about that. And I think that, that's definitely opportunities to look at as we talk about, recruitment, retention, all of those things. Part of that is making sure that, we get out on the Facebook, we get out, we take pictures, we show people what our volunteers are doing in the community. So that's a big part of it as well. But to answer that, we're starting.
Seeing as how we have a new CVB destination, Oshkosh, I know that's a little bit different than the city moniker, but just curious. Thanks.
Yes.
Just a thought about more volunteers. Maybe working with the university, if, Travis has got some Brute Squad kind of projects, class in the spring or fall, removing invasives along a spot in the bay in Menominee or something like that. I have done that. It's not every year, but, if you get 10, 12, 15 kids that are kind of that age group, you can get a lot done in a short amount of time. They're not going to water flower beds every week, but anyway, it's just a thought. The second question I had was, how are you leveraging those dollar estimates? Are you allowed to use that for matching grant, in kind?
There are opportunities for some of that in the future. I think that's something that Ray and his staff will have to explore as we continue to kind of grow that program. Just over the last couple of years have we been starting to really track that that diligently. And so I think those are definitely opportunities for the future.
I just want to say, I volunteer once in a while, not much, but a little bit, and you have made it very simple. And I had an emergency come up on an evening I was going to volunteer, but I knew right exactly who to call and say, I'm sorry, I can't be there. So it's a great improvement. You've done a great job.
If I can just jump in on Kay's question, maybe you can touch a little bit, Kathy, on how you are actively reaching out to university and some of the fishing groups and other or organizations we know. We have, in the past, we've had volunteers come in and help us in the field, but it was more of them coming to us and then Chad or Travis mainly sitting down saying, "All right, what can we pull together and what do we need cleaned?" I think right now we're doing more of a proactive step of coming up with a list of whether it's weekly, monthly, yearly type projects, and then having a centralized person through Kathy to help coordinate some of that. So as Deb said, it's becoming more easier to sign up, but also just, again, that constant communication and recognition as well. So if you can touch on some of the group activities.
Yeah, absolutely. So when we first started kind of going through this, we really, it's a big animal, right? There's a lot of parks, there's a lot of places that we could be or have volunteers assist us. So we wanted to kind of reach out to some of those groups that have already been helping us. So the Oshkosh Ecological Society is one of those groups that we've already met with, kind of getting an idea of what they've been doing down in the Menominee Park area, Ames Point area specifically, and then kind of asking for their input to kind of help us build on some of those opportunities that we may have. They'll work really closely with Travis on some of that stuff. In those meetings, we actually did have some a representative from the university who was also at those meetings, willing to help connect us. I did reach out, as Ray said, to the fishing club at the university, kind of asking them if they would be interested in helping with cleaning some of the docks throughout the summertime. They get pretty messy. So just kind of looking at some of those things. Other avenues that we always reach out to, especially for the event stuff, is the high schools. They do have horticulture and agricultural courses at the high schools, and so we are going to be looking at reaching out to some of those groups. I believe Travis is even going to kind of put a plug in at the 8th grade career day for some of those students who may be interested in, either coming out, whether it's for events or whether it's for park maintenance and landscaping stuff. Any opportunity we have to reach out to those groups specifically. What we were able to do with also the events this past year is we started reaching out to businesses and saying, hey, would you be willing to bring 5 or 6 of your employees with you to a special event and have like an event night? You can wear your logoed gear, kind of promote that you're doing this for the community, and in turn you're helping us as well. That worked out pretty well. We had a few different businesses that were willing to do that. And as Ray mentioned, several of those businesses, not those specifically, but several businesses are in our community continue to come to us and say, hey, we've got, next Tuesday, we're going to be available to come out. Our staff scrambles at those requests, trying to figure out who's going to be available, what resources do we have, what supplies do we have available. So by doing this, we're really trying to capture that and have all those things lined up in advance. So when somebody does come to us, we can say, hey, yeah, we've got a great opportunity, next Wednesday would be perfect. So we want to be kind of, instead of reactive all the time, we want to do some of those proactive steps in advance.
Would any of that fit with the United Way has a database for volunteers? It seems like some of that, if you knew ahead what you wanted, then the businesses could send a group or...
Yes, we are listed on the United Way. A lot of times we'll just kind of have that link over to some of the projects that we create for people to sign up. But we do use a number of different avenues, and that is one of them that we use to recruit different volunteers and groups.
I'm going to put you on the spot, and Stacy might have to jump in, but intertwine, and this is our Adopt a Site program or Adopt a Park. Can you touch on that a little bit? And if you don't know enough, Stacy helps coordinate that, so she can, but.
Sure. What I do know, and Stacy, feel free to jump in. What I do know is we do currently have Adopt a Site. So groups can adopt a specific site that they'd like to take care of throughout the spring, summer year. And so it's really them kind of coming in, getting supplies, having what they need to do the projects as well. And that can be kind of sporadic. We're looking to kind of shore that up a little bit. And hopefully by us looking at that recruitment and retention of volunteers and recognition of volunteers, we want to take that into that Adopt a Site and really start, thanking and appreciating those volunteers who come in and do those Adopt a Sites as well. It's hard to always be able to do that if you don't have a little management of that program. And while we try to do our best, I think this will be a good fit to kind of roll that in. And I think a lot of the opportunities that we will be creating will be, individual, or they could be group things where those groups might want to then adopt that site and kind of take over that. Hopefully that's how we grow into some of that program. Stacy, did I miss anything?
No, you did an excellent job. It's just one of the things is right now a lot of the Adopt a Site programs are more neighborhood association specific. It would be great to be able to open that up. The neighborhoods that have adopted their specific sites have done a lot of work in them and take ownership of their park. So that helps not only just with the volunteering, taking care of the park, but then having eyes and ears in the park, letting us know if there's something that needs to be improved upon or if there's a issue that has occurred. They see it more quickly than we might be able to because they're on the site so often. And again, they take a extreme ownership in their park, which is great to see.
Stacy, do you have Adopt a Roundabout as well or not?
We do not have that. I believe that might be something that is being worked on. No?
No, due to the high risk in those areas, we're encouraged to keep our staff there and make sure that we're.
They have them in some other places, but I often wondered about, whether that was a good idea or not.
We try to keep our volunteers safe.
I do think though that the city and the CBB or maybe the BID is sharing a landscape person for that purpose, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep, I can just give a quick update on that. This past, what was last year, 22, we had a great partnership with the Convention Visitors Bureau, Community Foundation, the BID, and the Kinzel Foundation. They came to us and said, we want to beautify the downtown a little bit more. We want to beautify the city entryways and the roundabouts. And so what they did was gave a 4-year commitment to the city that they would fund a full-time horticulturist in our landscape operations division. So we brought that to the council for a budget amendment, obviously saying, let's accept this money to pay for a full-time position for 4 years. And it's been a good position that we have been able to do a lot of work downtown. It's a growing position, but I think you're going to see a little more attention paid to some of those areas, the roundabouts, as well as the medians on like Highway 21, Highway 44, and some of those areas. So.
Is that the program that allowed you to add more containers and things downtown? Or was that before? I'm playing catch up because I'm new.
More containers, trash, or flower pots?
Flower pots.
We actually, when we took it over, it was the same number of flower pots. There was a contractor that came in and provided the planting and then changed it over for seasonal. And so that's what our staff members are now taking on, working closely with Jesse from the BID and some of the botanists and some of the nurseries from the area as well. Go ahead.
Yep, I think I'd just like to add too with the different groups that we're collaborating with, one of the things that I think they appreciated in us providing this is they're going to get the opportunity as well for us to kind of filter through volunteers to some of those different groups. So if somebody comes in and says, hey, I'm interested in working in this area or this site, perhaps we can kind of add them into a group that's currently working. And what that does for us too is helps us, if we have existing volunteers who have been doing a lot of landscaping and know a lot about plants and invasive species and things like that. Some of those things we'd like to get to a place where we have volunteers training volunteers, right? At some point, it would be nice for our staff not to always have to be right on site with each of those volunteers. again, depending on what that volunteer role is for that day. Like Stacy mentioned, safety is always, a concern, so dependent on what they're doing. But it's nice to have some of those experienced volunteers in those places already.
And so the Master Gardeners program is, that population's been shrinking?
Yeah, definitely looking at reaching out to some of those. But yeah, as we
'Cause
get
that's a
volunteers who are
train-the-trainer.
coming in, yeah, there's perhaps some areas that we can, if volunteers are coming to us, perhaps we can kind of filter and kind of be that middleman, so to speak. They'll be our volunteers, but we're going to be offering, what sites can they be working on?
They won't be working on the sites. They're like the trainers.
Right.
They shifted a few years back to, we'll train, but we are not going to pull the weeds,
Sure.
right?
Where
At least-
we're going to have the volunteers who want to be doing those
Yeah,
things.
yeah.
Yes.
I mean, because I think Wisconsin and Minnesota, I don't know if that was a regional decision or what, because I was like, well, you could pull a few weeds, just as an example.
I think those are
can't-
just groups that we're going to be reaching out to, and however we can work, with each of those groups and see what they can bring to the table and what other people are willing to come through. Like we've talked about, what a great opportunity it might be if we have a mulching project to reach out to the university or high schools for some of their, sports teams to come out and do some of those types of volunteer projects for us, or with us, I should say.
I just wanted to add to, with all the events that I do, Kathy's done an amazing job. She, her and I work very closely together, and she's done a really good job. And like she said, we're really trying to build things. And we actually did, it was actually a kind of a fun day at UWO this past fall. It was a way for students on campus to come in and learn what there is to do in Oshkosh, right? Like all the different things they can do and clubs they can be on. And it was a great day, but we had all of our volunteer stuff there, and Kathy had put together some really nice information with our upcoming events like our Zulaween Boo, our Touch a Truck event, and then from that event at UWO, we got a ton of people that reached out that wanted to volunteer for those fall events. So we've been trying to do a lot of those. They're not necessarily volunteer fairs, but they're just fairs like what is there to do in Oshkosh type thing. And so students that are looking to be a part of something, they contacted us and came out to our events and volunteered as well. So we do some of those type things too. And then we really talk to them about staffing. We try, like, hey, if you like what you're doing, we do have open positions. And so we've gotten a couple people that way too through volunteering that they've really enjoyed it and then have signed on in the summer for staffing. So, but Kathy does a great job and has made the events a lot less stressful when you have people there that are going to show up and you can depend on to help out and to run an event. So it's been a really great thing. So.
And it's a lot less stressful when we have volunteers who want to return. And that's a big part of it, is making sure that we're doing our part and providing that good experience that people do want to come back, because that does make it much easier on our side if we have people who know an event or, have experience doing a project or something like that. So, really excited. We've already got a few people signing up for this year's events already, and we just put it out a couple weeks ago. So, that's exciting to see. It does show that this is, we are doing the right things at the right time.
Any other questions? If not, again, I agree with Jenny that in the past, before Kathy took on this task, we had a seasonal individual and Jenny helping out a lot on that. But again, I think it was something that Kathy took running. She's done a great job organizing it, and now we're building it a little bit further and expanding it. So, thank you.
All right, up next, discuss and recommend the Pollock Community Water Park Agreement with the city and the school district.
In your packet, you did receive the agreement between the city and the school district. This is a similar agreement that we have had with the school district since the water park was constructed and opened in 2006. This is an agreement that provides the rec department through the school district provides lifeguard staffing, which the city we reimburse them for that cost through our pool fund. Everything basically in the agreement is the same as in the past, except between the recreation director and I, we agree that we should do it a 2-year agreement this year. I think last year we did a one-year agreement because the new recreation director was just getting involved in his new position and taking a look at the operations. But we're comfortable offering or recommending a two-year agreement. So I can address any questions that you might have. And this is something that does need to be forwarded to the Common Council for approval. So eventually, we'd be looking for some type of recommendation. So.
Questions, concerns?
I think I saw something about the hourly rates for attendants and lifeguards. Like 13 to $15 an hour.
Yep, there should be an attachment.
Yes.
Yeah.
Final
I
page.
saw it.
Yep.
I guess my question is, how much of an increase is that, and is that feasible for attracting folks that will be regular?
Yep, I believe going into last year's season, we did bump the lifeguards or all their staff up by about $2 an hour. We did the same thing at the city, and so we felt we had to do something and let the school district know we knew they needed help recruiting. So there was an adjustment made within the last year to year and a half. So, and then any returners or any returning staff will be getting a 25-cent increase going into the 2024 season.
Add anything else to that hourly wage for any of our seasonal employees? Any other, I don't know, access to the museum or other perks, I guess?
I would say for the lifeguard staff, we do pay for their training. So
Okay.
that's a pretty big
Okay.
cost. Yeah. So if you want to become a lifeguard, you can start by contacting us, but you should go through the recreation department. And, yeah, they offer training where we reimburse for that training.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we had to start that over 2 years ago to help get recruitment in for that program, and it seemed to help.
This is essentially the same agreement that the county attorney, or the city attorney rather, approved last year, or?
Yeah, this is, like I said, other than the number of years and a few minor tweaks, it's pretty much been the same for, at least I'm going on 13 years, and it hasn't changed really much. I think it's worked fine for both. I'm sorry, Lester.
I was just saying, move to approve as is.
Second?
I'm sorry, who seconded? Thank you. For the vote then, Bartelt?
Yes, aye.
You just do roll, I think, right? Voice vote?
No, we have to vote individually.
Now that we're inside, yeah.
Davis?
Aye.
Martin?
Aye.
Millet?
Aye.
Palmieri?
Aye.
Qualley?
Aye.
Challenger? Motion passed 7-0, thank you.
All right. Now, the updated self-service kayak rental program.
Stacy. So we wanted to share with you something that we think is
The video is in the circle on the
downstairs.
bottom.
Okay.
Yep.
So there's a company that we became aware of, and we actually, Jenny had some discussions with them probably about a year and a half ago. And it was just when they were starting to get into some of these self-service kayak store or racks. It's very similar to if you've done this, renting a bike or a scooter in some other municipalities where it's app-based and you're charged through your debit or credit card, whichever is linked to that app. So we started looking a little further into it, and they actually came back to us over the winter and would like to see us work with them. Right now, they do not have any other communities in Wisconsin that I'm aware of, I believe, other than they just signed an agreement with Calumet County Parks on the east side of Lake Winnebago. So they're looking for somebody on this side of Lake Winnebago to partner with. So just to give you an idea, I can go through some of the information, but really, they're storage containers that include the kayak or stand-up paddle board, the paddle, the life jacket, whatever you need, pretty much turnkey to come in and to kayak. The one thing that I'm trying to push the company on is what they do at your initial site for the first year at least. They only will bring a 4-unit storage locker in. I would like to see them at least get us to an 8-unit, so I'm going to continue to work on that. But as you can see here, these are some of the examples that they've got out there. I think we've got a fairly easy site to be able to do this at Menominee Park at Miller's Bay, where we have our existing racks. I think there's room down there that we can have one of these storage lockers fairly easily placed down there. I'll go through the video real quick, just so that everybody can see that.
What the sound is.
I don't think there's sound, actually.
Oh, okay.
If you look on the left, it'll kind of show you what she's doing on her app, and then she's obviously returned.
This is what your dishwasher looks like after 1 year.
Yeah, we got the money. So, as you can see, it's very user-friendly. We are working right now, it's a 5-year commitment that they would like. I'm working with our risk manager and our city attorney's office on a couple of things within the agreement, but I'm fairly comfortable we can get the company to agree certain things that we need to see in the agreement. What they will do is come in and help us do kind of a market study to find out what type of rental rate per hour that we would set these at. The commitment is a 5-year commitment, and it's $16,000, which covers the 5-year, the lockers, and then they actually hire a service technician or a field technician locally. So if there's any issues with the racks or anything that needs to be fixed or taken care of, that individual comes down and takes care of it. So it's really no burden on us other than providing the area. We are currently, we've applied for some grants, and we're soliciting a couple donations to look at covering that cost. As part of that, we get 50-50 revenue share throughout the agreement. So in talking with the rep from the company, these are very popular out on the East Coast is where they are doing a lot of theirs. And what he is telling me is that within the first 3 years, they're just about right, they are able to cover their investment on this. So again, we're looking at it to get some type of grant or donation so that there's no cost up front to us, and then we would take revenue in. They do help with the marketing. They actually do all of the marketing, the signage, so it's pretty turnkey basically. What I would see is giving this a chance. Again, as we talked internally, placing it down at Miller's Bay, and our hope is that we'd see really good use of it, and I could see these expanding to other parks throughout the city. We talked about possibly down at Rainbow or by the senior center at the boat launch, Boat Works. I think if we're successful and they're heavily utilized, that we could hopefully expand on the program up and down the entire river system, which I think is something that'll help us. Our rentals down at the amusement area, we do have some rentals. We do have the equipment and everything there, but because of some of the other issues, staffing issues, as well as some of the weed issues within the bay and in that area, not as heavily used as we had hoped. And I think what we'll be able to do is put some signage. If we go with these self-service storage lockers, we'd be able to direct people to the racks saying, if the kayaks aren't here, we do have these racks available for $50 a year if you have your own kayak, or go to the amusement area and we have them available for rent as well. So I think there's some cross-marketing and promotion that we can do along with the lockers and try to help out some of those other areas that we have.
Brings up a good point. This past year was really difficult with the weeds there in the bay. My paddle was like, I think, weeding the bay. But so, do you think how much do we know that impacted folks utilizing down there? And I guess the other question would be, would we also be looking at places like Lakeshore Park? I think there's supposed to be a dock going in out there for launching small.
Yep. Part of the master plan out at Lakeshore has a kayak canoe dock or launching dock out in that area. Another area, again, that we would take a look at as a possibility. I think if we get this first year and it's successful and generate some decent revenue and we can add additional lockers, I think it'd be great for all of us.
But they won't allow you to go beyond the 4 or 8 the first year.
Correct, yeah. I had a Zoom meeting with the representative last Friday, I think it was. Talked about a lot of those items that we have to come to agreement within the agreement, but that is one item that I did say that we'd like to push for and see if he can help us on that. So we're working through some of those details yet.
I could see that as a really cool birthday party.
Yeah.
Quick question for you, Ray. The one-time activation fee, that's $16,000 per unit, or no matter how many you could talk them into?
Nope, it is, let me just get the full agreement here if I brought it. Yeah, I didn't bring it. $16,000. If we expand the program, that is covered in that $16,000. So add additional ones after the first year, they are covered under that. Which, then again, as we add more, obviously our shared revenue is going up as well. So,
When Lori said birthday party, it made me think, is this something that that people can reserve, or is it first come, first serve?
it'll be
Whoever
first
gets
come,
there.
first served,
Yeah.
yes.
I guess I'm kind of curious how they deal with the variable sizes of like the life jackets and that. I mean, is it?
I know he touched on that. And I'm just trying to see if there's anything up here. I can check with him on that.
Yeah, like child versus.
Yeah, because
Adults.
it does state on here that it has the capability to hold single or double kayaks. So that's a question I'll have to get addressed as well. And at some of our sites, we do have, at Rainbow we have a loaner life jacket program that we worked with a couple local individuals, youth, probably 5 years ago, Chad. And so we've got some life jackets there that are available for all boat launch, but it's not going to help us at Miller's Bay, obviously, but might be something we could look at expanding as well.
I think if you can find funding through it, like you said, through donations or whatever, and you get 8, you try it out and you see how it works. If we're not throwing money at it, go for it. See what happens. If it works out great, then let's expand more, and it's another revenue stream. So I think it's a slam dunk.
I guess on the legal side of it, they work out the risk and that. So this is essentially creating a vendor at the park. And does that then lead to, we also need to consider other vendors renting or leasing things out at the park?
In our city ordinance, we can enter into the agreements. They need to come through us and get city approval, obviously. They just can't go down there and provide bait, for example, or anything like that. It's specific in the city code on the process for that as well, or who needs to do that. So, no, we're excited. I think,
Yeah.
Super
Same
cool.
thing with bikes. We've run through it already, the liability side and everything on that. So it's cool.
yeah.
More interaction with the waterways.
Yep.
Close, slow interaction with the waterways.
Yep. And you can figure it out as you go along. You know what I mean? You got one site, you got a few in there, see how it works, see what you can tweak, and then go from there.
My hope is by the end of this month, we'll find out more on our requests for funding for these. So hopefully we'll have a good report in the next month or so.
Okay.
Is the company looking for like a certain amount of usage? Is that why they're
Yes.
starting at 4.
Right.
Okay.
And they're controlling all the, not controlling, but they're providing all the paddles and boats and everything else.
Yep, anything's
And you're getting
broken or
50 and you're getting
lost.
50% of the revenue out of it, so
Yeah.
it's a good deal.
All right.
All right, yep, moving on to the outdoor ice skating rinks.
That one, I asked Chad if he can provide an update to the board and really help get the information out to the citizens, because as you're aware, the weather conditions that we had when I was a kid, and you heard that from your parents, but the weathers just aren't as harsh as they used to be when we were growing up, whether it's snow or ice, cold weather. And we're seeing that again this year. And we made the decision not to put the portable rink up at Roe Park, just based on our past experience. And Chad and I have been here again going on about 13 years, and we've done man-made ice rinks in our other communities, and they're very maintenance intensive. And the weather, again, just doesn't cooperate as much as it has. So I wanted Chad to kind of share some information on what goes into even trying to get a ice rink at the lagoon at the zoo or on the lake or stuff like that. So I'm going to turn it over to Chad and let him use his field experience on it.
I think prior to 2017, we'd usually work on Miller's Bay to help with keeping a sheet of ice in an area clean for people to do. That used to be on the south side of the lagoon near the boat launch, but then when the new outfalls went in, we had to move locations for that down the end of Irving Street. So not a really conducive place for having that in the long run. Once that kind of transpired, we moved up to the T-Dock off of Nevada Street to work with. Again, that's a nice open spot to work from, and Dr. Eric's Skate Club had utilized that with the schools as well. And it worked out where we'd help out. If we could get equipment on the ice, if we had 12 inches, we would do so for snow removal. Anything prior, some of the students would help with shoveling areas to make that work out for those sites. And we didn't spend a lot of time up there, a lot of staff time. It was more volunteer times and the participants that put more of their resources into that, keeping that together. Then evolved into developing the nice rink concept that we thought was going to be a great vision for us going into it, and we've started down at Riverside Park. And there's some challenges with that rink in regards to grade levels that we had that were a distant difference of about 11 inches from one side to the other, where you couldn't get consistent ice to form. So that made that challenging. It was a great area to have it with the use of the convention center, the ambiance that was down there, trying to meet the goals of what the donors wanted as well, and keeping it downtown. Then we explored other sites after 3 years to go into and solidified with Roe Park. Last year was 2 years we did Roe Park down there. And the first year we had little problems with grade again, so we went through and redid some revisions to the turf down there and leveled things out to make it easier for us. To the nice rinks, what you technically need is about 4 inches of water in them to make them work. But more importantly, you need at least 6 to 8 inches of frost in the ground before you can even put the liner down to start freezing ice. That seems to be the problem for us as more lately than anything. And after we went through and evaluated this year, is it conducive or not to do it in this area? That's we decided to pull, looked at some options down at Miller's Bay with the lagoon near the amusement area, working out of the Kiwanis shelter, because the needs were to have something for a warming area to deal with and what we could make work out. So we looked at the zoo more there, knowing that the Lake Fly Cafe, is maintained heat during this winter months to do it, because the Celebration of Lights used to utilize it for different events as well. That use has turned down, and we can hopefully make that work for us to go from. And in addition, we're hoping that was a little less staff time, knowing that we could control the area with the security of the zoo gates and things of that nature to keep people safe and not on there if conditions weren't right. As of today, I went out and did some test holes to see what we had for ice in the lagoon, and we averaged 5 to 6 inches in the main area. That still doesn't work for us to put equipment out on the ice to do snow removal, which we do have snow removal on the surface right now to go from. And just playing Mother Nature and what she's giving us here over the past couple weeks, we're hoping that things can work out with our scheduled date. Last week, Saturday, was supposed to be our first opening date, and we had to cancel. We're taking it day by day right now. meeting with Dr. Eric's group, meeting with the Recreation Department to try to come up with a plan to see if we can make it happen this week. But it's just not a guarantee at this time. But it is challenging. I think the weather being in the mid-30s is just beautiful for people to get out and enjoy the winter environment. I just wish we could have the right conditions to do so. I will say if things do work out and we can do some light snow removal and get the area safe, it would be nice to open this weekend, so people could utilize that to make it work. But if we get any significant amount of snow, I just don't know how I'd be able to remove, to keep it clean for people to use here in the short time. So it's helping us on one hand. The snow's been not as proficient as it has in the past, but all I can say is we're going to take it day by day and with hopes that maybe we can open this weekend right now. But it has been a challenge. As Ray mentioned earlier, I think when I think of all the other communities I've worked in with ice rinks, that we've had 6 that we did made on land for doing one in one community. And by the time I left, we were down to 2 from that end, and then struggling for years to try to find locations to make it work. You think of living in Oshkosh and in the lake and the river, that you'd always have skating opportunities to work from. Let's hope it can work out in our area, that people can safely have a good activity. But all I can do is keep you posted, keep watching our social media sites. That's where we're getting information out, and on the website as well, with what our future plans are. So stay tuned. That's all I can ask.
And we don't exactly have a Bergstrom donor to put up something like they have in Neenah, which is quite pricey. It was beautiful to go up there and try it out. My granddaughter was really thrilled, but a little spendy.
Yeah.
All right, staff reports. Travis, looks like you're up first.
All right. I just don't have much. Just a little bit on the ash removal and replacement. First off, from our Zone 3 removals, the ones that we were responsible for the stumps. I remember at our last meeting, I said that I had everything lined up and we are hopefully going to take care of the rest of the stumps. Unfortunately, right after that, we got a bunch of weather. And so there are still about 20-ish stumps from that we still have to come in, and hopefully we'll be able to take care of them, weather permitting, sooner than later. We still hope to get them done by next spring so that we can start replanting in some of those sites as well. Let's see, for zones 1 and 2 that the contractor is, has about 30-ish trees left for the whole contract. So they're hoping to get those wrapped up within the next week or two. They have started following behind with the stumps and gotten about halfway with the stumps, but there again with us, weather came in, and so they've been pulling off and they're trying to get back on it, and if conditions are right, they'll hop back in and start getting the stumps out. They need to get those done by May and get everything restored so that we can start replanting in those sites as well. For the replanting, I have been getting some people that have been calling in, but if you would like to have your tree or a tree planted in your terrace, by all means, please contact us. I'm looking for lots of sites, and I'm getting some, but I still need more. So you can contact us either by emailing me, putting ash replacement in the subject line, or just calling the parks office directly, and they'll get that over to me.
What are some of the tree species options besides the crabapple?
We actually are not offering crab apples. So we are putting in, offering ginkgos. We're going to try some chestnuts, a couple of different varieties of chestnuts that I've seen are good. What else? There are.
Trying to be the hazelnut, the native hazelnut.
No, I don't
I
believe.
think those are more of a bush than a tree.
It can be tree
Yes,
form too, but
they
they're pretty salt intolerant, so that might be a
Yep.
zone of death situation.
Right. That's the species that I have selected are very salt tolerant, very urban, tough. So they're made to withstand, the heat and salt and the cramped spaces. So There are a few select species of maple. Some of the smaller trees would be like the redbuds, ironwood, the Japanese tree lilacs. What else there was hackberry for some of the bigger ones.
Amelanker working and all, or?
Yes, I do have service berries, the autumn brilliance service berry.
You were talking about locations for terrace. I'm noticing a number of the Main Street trees where the grades are missing, probably damage or disease. Are those going to be filled in this season, do you think?
Yes, we will go through and look at replacing those as well. And then for the pruning cycle, we have also started our annual pruning cycle. This year it is going to be east of the river, on the northeast side of the river, from the river to the lake, all the way to north to New York Street. And there's probably about 1,900 trees that we're going to be touched. So raising deadwood, balancing, that kind of stuff.
And remind me, can neighborhood associations set up like a demonstration on how to do the pruning to kind of spread some of that labor, or is it preferred? I can't remember what Bill Sturm used to say, preferred that you guys do it and no DIY stuff.
It is preferred that the city maintain it, and that's kind of where we've always stood.
And it's actually in city code as well.
Right.
But to go to your point of possibly having some DIY on their own property, Travis has gone out to some neighborhood associations and other groups
I thought that had happened a few years.
and did some pruning training that they could do on their own property. So if they've got something close to the sidewalk possibly. So again, if that's something that people are interested in, if they've got a group or an organization, Travis is willing to go out and do some education
Yeah,
too.
oh, most definitely.
Are you planting with gator bags on them, or no?
No, right now we've had seasonal staff run around and water typically a couple of times a week. At least that's what we had last summer, and we're planning on doing that again this summer.
If people have lost trees that were planted on their own property because their terraces were too narrow to support a shade tree, and it seems like there's the same species marching along, would those have been city-planted trees? And was there ever a time where if the terrace didn't support a shade tree, that the city then planted them with some kind of homeowner agreement and then put?
I think there
Seen that
was.
at
I want to
places.
say that there was, and the agreement on that was that the city would provide the tree and then wipe their hands of it. Then it became the homeowner's responsibility.
And so if they die and then there's no trees in that area, they're
That's
just.
something that I would have to look into a little bit more.
Well, I don't want to get into too
But-
great a specificity. I just got to wandering.
Right.
Sorry.
Because some parts of the city have really narrow
Skinny terraces, yeah.
as they've redone the streets and the sidewalks. In some cases where it was possible, they've kind of broadened those, but there's a lot of area with super narrow.
There is, and that's something that I've been meaning to look into and try and find a solution for that, but
Every
haven't
summer
gotten there.
when the U-Haul trucks come into our neighborhood, some of our less than 5-year-old trees are unfortunate victims to because they're right in the height of U-Haul truck.
They're not quite tall enough to get the road clearance, and so we try. That's all I got.
I just wanted to add real quick in case the board members aren't aware, but in the last 10 years or so, Bill Sturm, prior to Travis, he came up with a pruning cycle. So basically 1/5 of the city is pruned every year, and we rotate around.
Sorry, yes.
Like, is that posted on the website, Stacy?
I believe it is.
Believe it
So
is.
if you go under the parks, you should be able to pull that up under the landscape ops or forestry, just to see which zone you're in and possibly when the pruning takes place.
We're always happy to share that at council meetings too, under council member announcements and statements. If you want to put a little nudge into the agenda, this year we're in this zone, and maybe they can get the map shown up on the
Be a good, something good for the city manager newsletter, and we can put it on council too.
All right, Jenny?
Okay. So just going to share a couple of the winter events coming up with you guys, but right now, we're working with Stacy, and she's updating kind of our little activity guide, which is for the whole spring, summer, winter, fall, and all the activities that we do and that we offer. So we're kind of just waiting on some key pieces, but this is always available on our website. It's a flip book that Stacy keeps updated with, any changes or things, but it's a really nice thing just to have. It's everything we do, all the events at all the facilities throughout the year. So we will, once we kind of get finalized and make sure we have all the dates and everything booked, then we do print these and we get them at all of our facilities throughout the summer. So you can get them at the pool, at the library, down at the Lake Fly Cafe, at the park shop. So we have these where people can pick them up and they kind of know everything that's going on throughout the year. So, but coming up here on February 10th, that is a non-school day for Oshkosh. So if the weather cooperates and if Mother Nature lets us have the ice rink down at the Zoo Lagoon, we're planning on doing a day down there, doing like a Winter Olympics on the ice for all the school kids that are out of school that day. So we'll be doing a special event out there with the Recreation Department as well on February 10th. So that will be kind of a fun day if it's able to happen. And then in March, on March 18th, we are doing our St. Patty's Day Bingo event, which we host at the Senior Center building. So we try to do some intergenerational events. So some seniors come, but they bring their grandkids, or different families come. So it's kind of an event that's good for kind of all ages. So we do a bingo that afternoon and do some fun St. Patty's Day related concessions and have some fun prizes. So that's kind of the winter events right now before we kind of kick off the event season with our Easter events in April. So stay tuned. We're trying to get everything finalized, and we have most of the dates that we would like to see things, but we're just kind of waiting for our partners and making sure that those dates work with them as well. So, and then we'll be able to get it printed and out at our facility. So.
Very good. Thank you. All right. Any other business?
Just a request if we could have just kind of like a brief update on the progress on the Parks building and maybe the Chief Oshkosh Plex. And I'm sorry if I missed something on that. The last I knew there were the two reviews.
Yep.
All I knew.
On our Parks admin building, excuse me, progress is going very well. The footings, the wall footings for the entire office administration side are in. They're working on getting the footings for the entire fleet storage area. I would expect those will be done here, if not this week, within the next 2 weeks or so. They'll continue moving on. They'll start getting the precast walls. Within the next couple of weeks, you'll start seeing things getting actually vertical. So it's going very well. As far as the Chief Oshkosh signs, Stacy and I did talk with the vendor mid-December, and they actually closed their plant or their production from, I want to say, December 22nd or 23rd all the way until today. So they shut down for those, whatever it is, 3 weeks possibly. So I do have at the end of January to follow up on the 3 other proofs. We did go through the proofing of the 2, and my understanding is those 2 plaques are completed. We asked them to hold them, and we're going to ask them to ship them all at once instead of paying
You guys were
shipping.
able to coordinate with the tribe and everything for the preview and all that?
Correct.
Oh, great.
Yes. So
Maybe this summer? For
I'm, my hope is we will have the signs before spring. I'm being hopeful and optimistic. But then we need to obviously prep the site, make sure we have decent weather for concrete, which typically doesn't start till most likely May. So we'll keep working on it as they come in. But good progress, and then it slowed down with their holiday shutdown. So we'll keep following up on it.
So staff doing okay then in all your temporary digs until the new building's built? Not ready to like
Actually, I think
me or anything?
it's going well for us.
Yeah.
Stacy and I are at the water distribution office facility, and that's working fine. We do check with our house owners and make sure that we're not overstaying our welcome. And Chad, I think you can speak for, and Travis for the field staff. I think it's working well for them where they're at. I hear from Chad, he likes it because he doesn't have to be so close to me and take different tasks on that come up, so. So I think, I think things are going very well. So,
Exciting.
Yeah, it is. Very exciting.
And if I could just add real quick too, I have received my committee appointments for assembly, and I will be on the Forestry Park and Rec Committee as well as the Environment Committee. So if there are things that you need to get to state rep, we're ready to go as soon as they start scheduling those.
good.
That's awesome.
Exciting.
Move to adjourn.
Somebody else had their hand up.
sorry.
Oh, I just was being nosy about the new building. Was there any money that we were able to snag out of all this infrastructure flow for charging stations for cars or fleet for the exterior?
Nothing at our Parks Admin building out at Lake Shore. We do have it in, the conduit and wiring's being run. And right now, we're, really our, Jim Collins, our transportation director, is leading the charge on any electric.
Nice one, Ray.
But what we're making sure is that all the city departments, we're all on board with what vendor we're gonna be using or what type is going out there. So it's being worked on amongst various divisions as well as financing and everybody else. So stay tuned. It's gonna happen. It's just a matter of when and which type of charger, so. Thank you.
Can I go now?
Sure.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Oh, please
All
don't.
right.
Thank
Have a
you.
fabulous night, everybody.
There ever been anybody yet?